Time for your local athlete of the week. It's Kaylee Chaponski of the West Park Royals basketball team in the Plap. Portage La Prairie, the 5'2" guard, led the Royals to a silver medal finish at the Provincial JV Basketball Championships, where she was named a Championship All-Star. She was the team's leading scorer this season, averaging 15 points per game. She is almost always the smallest player on the court, but she does not let that stop her. She's the best defender on the roster and leads her team in steals. Kaylee is a grade 10 student and maintains an 80% academic average while also participating in volleyball and soccer. Kaylee Chaponski, your local athlete of the week. All right, this is quite a thrill. I am beyond excited to be sitting next to the longtime host of CBC's Hockey Night in Canada and the current host of Rogers Hometown Hockey, the one and only Ron McLean. Ron, thank you so much for doing this.
Pleasure, Mike. And you know, having worked on Hockey Night in Canada through the years, especially on the musical and features end of it, what a joy it is to be part of that tradition. So it's nice to work with you again.
Absolutely. This is the last stop on the Hometown Hockey Tour. You're here in Winnipeg. Who are some of the people you think about when you come into town? What are some of the things that flow through your mind?
Well, clearly Don Whitman's right at the top of the list. Scott Oak I would include, but Don, we did world track and fields all over the globe. He was just such a great, I did the Seoul Olympics. My first Olympics was 1988, and we would walk for hours on end, and I was always curious, Mike, he was so well prepared, and I wondered, when does he do his preparation? Because we would walk for 3 hours, we'd go to dinners, and he'd go to the casino. Don loved numbers. He did funny things with numbers his whole life, but he was always immaculately prepared for every assignment. Just a real inspiration.
John K. Sampson, I know you're a big fan of too, frontman for the Weaker Thans, a Winnipeg band here. Canadians are very passionate about their hockey, obviously, but they're also very passionate about their music. And I think Hockey Night in Canada has done a tremendous job throughout the years, kind of showcasing that crossover, right? The blending of the two worlds.
Well, Scott Young, Grubs on Skates was his first book, and he wrote a number of books for children promoting the game, and obviously Neil Young is his son, so it kind of begins and ends with the Youngs. But Winnipeg's musical hit, culturally the whole heartbeat of Winnipeg. The reason I love John K. Sampson is for the Weaker Thans, but I also love him for the work he's done collaborating with Miriam Taves, who's a writer who wrote two unbelievable books. One is Swing Low, the story of her father succumbing to mental illness that resulted in suicide, and All My Puny Sorrows, same theme. Her sister died of mental illness, and Miriam is just an inspiration in that particular field, and John Kay has always been kind of that voice who speaks for the marginalized, speaks for anyone who's down on their luck. So it's a town that culturally, as I say, had a heartbeat. It had a heart.
When you're going to all these communities across our great land, Ron, personally for you, what do you take from that? What's the most satisfying part?
Stories. You know, there's always two teachers in the room is an old expression, and that's the greatest gift. For sure in television, like public speaking, if the joke's funny, the people will laugh, but you won't know that unless you have an audience. And you don't have the storytelling, you don't have a gauge of how things are playing unless you really get out and be amongst rink rats, and it's always the same feeling I get everywhere I go. I remember being in Whitehorse, Yukon as a child, and Bobby Hull came to town, and I got his autograph, and I got to meet him. And you know, all these heroes who are kind of secondhand to us through the television, suddenly it gets really real when Curtis Lasician and Dave Babbage and Chris Pronger and Chantal Kreviatsik are all here with us in Winnipeg. It makes it just so human.
That's a perfect segue, because you're the master of a pun, but you're also a great encyclopedia of great quotes from people who have contributed to this game over the years. And one great quote that always stands out to me, I've heard you say this a few times, is the power in each of us comes from all of us. And that's briefly what you were touching on there. Right?
That's Mike Murray. He was the track and field coach for Canada's relay team in 1996. And actually, we don't have the time, but the great thing about that story, the relay gold medal, it was Donovan Bailey anchoring. Obviously, he was the world's fastest man. Bruni Surin, Glenroy Gilbert, but the guy who led off was a guy named Robert Esme of Sudbury, who was a bit ostracized by the three key guys. They didn't want him on the team. They thought they could win without him. He was too brash for their tastes, whatever it was. But after one run, they realized they needed Robert Esme, so they put their differences aside and they worked together and they won the gold. And it was Mike Murray from Lower Mainland of British Columbia who used that line to convince the others the power in each of us comes from all of us. So quit thinking you know who's best. Work together. And you know, when I did the Olympics in Sochi, just to reflect Mike Murray's thinking, we didn't show the medal standings once. In 16 days of primetime coverage, Shirley Najak was the producer, and he's the kind of guy that would go along with something like that. It was crazy, right, to not show how Canada's doing vis-a-vis the U.S., Holland, Germany, whatever. But I don't believe in it. I always believed in the power all of us comes from each of us and vice versa. So that's why no medal standings. Pierre de Coubertin would have agreed to that, I know.
Sitting alongside Don Cherry doing Coach's Corner for so many years, you're steering the ship during that segment, obviously.
Yeah,
we all, kind of, yes. We all know what Don's all about, very electrifying, captivating as always, but you get your jabs in there too, don't you?
Well, I tried to do that, Mike, at the get-go, just because there was, 5 minutes isn't enough to have a proper argument, so I thought a little pun or some levity at the end would sort of make amends for maybe the controversy we were causing. Right. But as you know, one of your favorites and one of mine was early on in my career when he was giving it to me. What are we going to listen to? I'm a Coach of the Year in the American Hockey League, Coach of the Year in the NHL. We got Weatherman from Red River. He always calls my hometown Red Deer, Red River. We got a Weatherman. And I said, yes, Don, I was a Weatherman. That's why I'm so good at anticipating flakes. And he thought that was funny for once.
Just perfect, yes. Obviously, when many Canadians think of Hockey Night in Canada, they think of you. They think of Don Cherry, of course. They also think of Bob Cole. Mm-hmm. Bob Cole is an absolute legend. My friend Matthew Giovinazzo always said Bob Cole's voice is like a warm blanket. Yeah. When he's calling a game, it's just so comforting. What is it about the emotion he brings to a broadcast?
Well, first of all, he's got an incredible sense of the game. You can't have the proper inflection unless you know this isn't the real scoring opportunity. It's about to happen in 2 seconds. And that's Bob's gift. He seems to know the 3-on-1 is imminent. He seems to know the big draw is happening. So he's got great anticipation, like all great athletes or performers. And then, as you say, he's got the sultry voice, and he's got the Foster Hewitt was the one who taught him the 4 levels of intensity. Don't waste the goal call as it's coming through the neutral zone. He's incredibly talented. He doesn't worry about storytelling. He doesn't editorialize. He's just somehow the perfect soundtrack to the picture we're getting. So he is amazing. He's also a guy, that I've learned so much from, and just admired his intensity, his relentless, like Don, octogenarians who will die in their boots, their work boots.
You and Don Cherry inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame late last year. How special was that for you? And did it give you time to just kind of reflect on your career?
Yeah, it did. I did a story for the Free Press today, just going back to anxiety attacks when I was a kid and wondering if I was even cut out for the business. And I don't like the words pride. I don't like satisfaction. But I felt like, having gone through a lot as a youngster in broadcasting, like we all do, that was a moment to sort of look back and say, thank heavens I stuck with it and got to this point that Don and I created a tandem. So I was part of a team, so that the power in each of us came from all of us. That was how I felt good about it. Just grateful is the word. Not proud, just grateful that 31 years us two have been in a foxhole, and this was a nice way to sort of celebrate it. Hometown
hockey, just to bring it back there, is this something you see yourself continuing doing?
Sure. Yeah. If I stay out of the pubs, that's the only thing that we've got to find more dry towns. I remember there was 2 years in a row we did Hockey Day in Canada. Was in Iqaluit and Winkler, back-to-back dry towns, and I thought they're on to me, but they seem to have forgotten. And otherwise, yes. I'll be an octogenarian traveling the country, and gladly so.
Well, like so many Canadians, growing up, I quickly realized how important Hockey Night in Canada was to the culture of this country, to the heritage of this country, and you're obviously a huge part of that. You've been a huge inspiration to me and so many Canadians, and really appreciate the time. So thank you very much, Ron.
Thank you, Mike.
Over the last several months, Naya Becker, a 6'1" grade 10 student in Winnipeg, has greatly impressed national team camps with her progress on the hardwood.
I started playing basketball in this gym for the community team when I was 8, and I think I connected well with it because I just like the team aspect of at first playing with my friends and just having a good time. When you do something great together and something good comes of it, you feel great together.
High and soft, no rim. There you go.
In addition to playing for the Vincent Massey Collegiate Varsity team, Naya is a member of Basketball Canada's Centre for Performance Club Team, a regional training program that targets high-potential athletes with advanced level training.
She's just turned 15, so physically she's gotten taller, longer, and stronger. And then she's had some confidence building events. Right now she's young, the skills are coming, the potential's there. Now it's, are you actually going to be a good player? And that's all heart, mental, understanding the game, confidence. There's going to be a lot of kids that have the same skill set and same size, and the separator is going to be how well do you play the game.
Having the opportunity to play the sport she loves both locally and in tournaments down in the U.S., the maturation process of becoming a leader is taking shape.
I was usually really quiet when I was younger, loud off the court, quiet on the court, so I had to kind of change that. You have to like stay positive and help your teammates out. Like it's not just you, it's like everyone else on the court. So when you like share the positiveness and like high fives and touches, it makes everyone feel better.
A nice compliment to her successful play came in the form of an invite from Basketball Without Borders to attend the 2016 NBA All-Star Game in Toronto.
As a dad, I was very proud. As a technical director for basketball in Manitoba, we were super proud that someone from Manitoba got recognized for that. There's only 5 girls in Canada. She was the only one in her age group. So it was a big honor. Some skill sessions, there's more a pat on the back, say, hey, you know, you're doing really well, keep it up. And here's a nice event for you to go. Is another confidence-building event to help her develop.
Getting absolutely schooled on the court by the talented Naya Becker. I'm Shaw TV's Mike Valente.